Ancient alchemy is the root of modern chemistry and medicine. Ancient medicine, prior to and up to the time of Hippocrates, was based on the proper management of life force energy, also known as Ki and Kundalini. Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and this is Just Energy. Just Energy is brought to you by SoulHealer.com, where you can find out about the products and services I offer. In this episode, we'll be speaking with Jennifer Gehl, where we will delve into the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm and show how discrepancies and misinformation about our history have contributed to faulty foundations upon which many of our health systems have been built. Her new book is The Science of Planetary Signatures in Medicine. Her webpage is soundworksbygehl.com. So please welcome Jennifer Gehl. Hey Jennifer, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Your book, very interesting. What do I do with it? The Science of Planetary Signatures in Medicine. Very interesting topic, one that is very close to my heart. You know, medicine,
Wonderful.
Ancient mysteries, you know, so it kind of blended all of the stuff that I like to investigate all into one book. So, good job.
Fascinating.
But what got
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
go ahead.
welcome. You're welcome. But what got you interested in looking at the relationship, and I'm going to say it this way, between our inner world and the outer world?
That has been really a lifelong process, and it began with my education in music, starting out at a very young age on piano and violin, and always feeling the healing power of music and sound in my life. As a teenager then, I got very, very interested in astrology and what I could learn, what I did learn about myself through the language of astrology. It cleared up so much confusion that I'm sure you remember having as a teenager, and maybe many listeners will remember having, just feeling out of your element, not feeling you want to belong and fit in, but at least for me, I never felt like I completely fit in with my family tribe, with my peers, and I just wanted to know who the heck I was and why I was here. Yes, even as an adolescent. I mean, and for me, the language of astrology and the planetary configuration that applied to me according to the time and place of my birth fascinated me. So first music, then astrology, then through many job changes, I found myself working at an acupuncture school, and I was receiving acupuncture treatments. It was one of the perks of the job, and I became absolutely enthralled with the system of Chinese medicine, the fact that it recognizes the as above, so below principle, that there are cosmic correspondences between how the cosmos operates and how our organs operate in the body. And so here I had found, well, it was through my association at the school that I discovered the creators of the system of acutonics. And what acutonics did for me was combine my musician part, my astrologer part, and my Chinese medicine lover part. And it was many years after that. I mean, I began this book in 2013. So just wanting to bridge this massive gap between complementary alternative therapies and what our medical system looks like today. I did go back to grad school, got a master's in health sciences, and it was through that experience, really, getting back into writing and and having this idea for the book just pop in. And that's a very, very long answer to your question, but that was the journey.
But it's an interesting journey, and I feel like, and we've all have said this, that, when there's a path that you're supposed to be following, it presents itself. And it's just more a matter of saying okay and accepting. I mean, with discernment, and allowing that path to unfold versus saying, well, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, and being stuck in the same place for forever.
Absolutely. Yes. It is a journey of staying in the moment, staying open to what comes to you, and to some degree, to a large degree really, being comfortable with the mystery, being comfortable with the unknown. I mean, because there were many years between my college degree and my graduate experience where I didn't know exactly how I was going to integrate these parts of myself. And I'm grateful for the experience of writing this book, because through that I became much more much more open and connected to the guides that came through very clearly and helped me develop chapter by chapter the content of this book. So
cool. One of the things that you were talking about was the relationship between the cosmos and the organs in the body. And so does our celestial nature, I like that phrase, our celestial nature, actually reflect our personal health?
I feel that it does. I mean, obviously I believe that because that's my work. I know that there are harmonic astrologers out there, but I feel that I call myself a harmonic astrologer, but I apply it in a different way, based on the acutonic system and based on how I use and apply the tones represented in our cosmic imprint or our natal signature. What astrologers call our natal chart, the snapshot of the heavens at the time that we're born. And it does represent through, if you want to, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I talk about this in the book, the Pythagorean concepts of math and geometry, and how geometry is frozen music. The chart itself.
Okay, sometimes
I lost your sound.
No, I mute it because I'm in a very loud environment usually. So, but sometimes someone will say something and it's like, interesting concept. That solids are. Say that again.
Geometry is frozen music. Because you see, according to Pythagorean concepts, number in and of itself implies order. It's the order of the cosmos, or the language of the cosmos. Number in space is geometry. Number in time is music. Number in space-time is astronomy. So really it's more accurate to say that astronomy is the language of the cosmos. But that, however, means that astrology is the language of the individual's connection to the cosmos. So the snapshot of the heavens at the time a person is born is what I call the cosmic imprint, or the divine blueprint. It is frozen music. It is it's geometry. So it represents certain mathematical angles which are harmonic relationships. And therefore, through the application of sound on the body, through my application of the acutonics tuning forks, what we're able to do then is to begin to harmonize what is dissonant, what is what may be creating stress physically, emotionally, or spiritually in the life of the individual. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. But then let me ask this question. So when you are doing the tuning forks, are you correcting issues that are in their natal chart, or like if they have a lot of squares, or like a grand cross in their chart, or are you correcting things that have taken them out of balance from what is supposed to be happening in their chart, good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's never one thing because, when it comes to our health, and our happiness, our feeling in harmony with self, with the body, and in harmony with our environment, it's never one thing. It's always a combination of things. And so let's look at it this way. I love to use musical metaphors. So let's think of the natal chart, or the cosmic imprint, if you will, as the personal key signature. If that works. And then the transits, as the planets continue to move, they activate different parts of that key signature, requiring a person's attention on a particular area of life, whether it's health or relationships or career. And so it's a combination of looking at how well are they doing or bringing to life their cosmic imprint, their key signature. And then on top of that, what is the universe asking them to modulate, to modify, to look at from a higher, more spiritual perspective?
And so when we are moving through a transit, and I think, for people that aren't into astrology, and correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, that a transit is angles or connections that happen as our natal chart moves through the sky on any particular day, correct? So it's the relationships between what's happening today and what was happening at the moment we were born. Correct?
Correct. So, and I would think of it, I would describe it more as the natal chart as more stationary, only because we're centered here on Earth, and from the geocentered perspective, that doesn't move. We carry that signature with us. We embody it. The transits, however, are moving, even though it's not like scientifically accurate from our perspective, from our human perspective. The planets in the solar system move around our chart and trigger, just like when acupuncturists insert needles on certain points of the body, they're activating energy. Well, when the transits act like triggers, and so they're activating these different parts of our natal key signature and bringing to life, bringing to our awareness new things that we have to get aligned with or become in harmony with. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it totally does. And I just try to, ask questions that I think that the listeners are going to want to have answers to, or might not have an understanding of what we're talking about. Sometimes maybe I don't, but and so it sounds like the basis of your work is the use of sound, and I'm going to use that in a really generic term, to impact the health of the body. And so could you speak on how sound, because I think someone who really isn't familiar with this topic would go, sound? Seriously, you know, I could just put the radio on. Why should I pay you a lot of money? I could just put the
Uh-huh.
radio on and heal myself.
Good question. Yes. All right. Well, I would encourage listeners to have a look at my book because I do describe in there how sound impacts matter in very specific ways and how sound rearranges what it touches and immediately changes what it touches through the, excuse me, through the principle of harmony. So when we are talking about, well, to go back to your question, why come to me instead of putting on your favorite piece of music? And I certainly would encourage anyone to put on their favorite piece of music, dance to it, meditate, you know, do whatever feels good to them. No harm there at all. But if you want to get more specific regarding deeper issues that are reluctant to change, or slow to change, like you mentioned, the grand square or squares, and they are, the beauty of the square is that they force us awake. They create so much inner tension that we cannot ignore that tension and we want to find an answer. However, sometimes it's not so easy to harmonize what is at cross purposes. And that is where my work can facilitate greater harmony and healing.
And you do that with tuning forks. So it's
Yes, I
not even
do.
like they get to listen to some Beethoven or something. They just
Well, for long distance clients, I am developing what I'm calling, at the moment at least, what I'm calling harmonic elixirs. They are, in fact, harmonic recordings based upon that person's chart. So I want to bring this work to people who aren't in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and who, you know, can't come in for an accutonic session, but who would nevertheless like to become more in tune, more in harmony with their authentic nature. And so I'm just beginning to offer Skype consultations with people at a distance so that I can help them hone in on what is it they'd really like to work on? How can I help them with these tones? And then I create a harmonic recording for them to listen to. And what, you know, the feedback that I've gotten so far from my guinea pig friends is, you know, they do feel the tones moving to different areas of the body. And they will feel goosebumps and just this general sense of well-being because they're listening to themselves. So
interesting. Okay, so we're gonna totally shift. Well, kind of totally shift gears here.
all right.
Okay, so there are a number of systems that have been used to describe our true nature, such as the chakra system. So how do they interact with us, and is there a relationship with our astrological celestial nature and our health and well-being?
There
Or was that too
absolutely
much a loaded question?
there absolutely is. And this is what, again, what I talk about in the book, the roots of ancient medicine, the roots of ancient alchemy. Alchemy is what influences chemistry. I talk about the Ouroboros, or, you know, the circle, the serpent eating itself. You know, the, I don't know, listeners may or may not know that, but I've got all this in the book. My point, though, is that for thousands of years, okay, the ancient scientists, physicians, musicians recognized this correspondence. And there are, well, you talk about the chakras. So, okay, there are different schools of thought depending on whether it's Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic. So I'm not gonna go into any one. I'm just gonna keep it
No, and
general.
that was kind of my thought. Just kind of a general overview because there are so many systems, even though
Yes,
to me, they all kind of touch each
they
other,
do.
but they
Yes.
all have their little pieces that they bring forward to this much bigger picture.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so again, forgive the plug, but I would encourage people to read my book because because it does touch upon these different systems and the correspondences of the planets to the chakra system, also to the endocrine system, very important. But to keep it generalized, I will say that the electromagnetic light and frequencies are moving within our planet Earth, within the body through the Kundalini, or the what they called serpent fire. Kundalini is just serpent energy, and it's the healing energy. Look, in the modern day symbol of healing, we have the caduceus, right? We have the column, or the staff with the serpents entwining around the staff. That represents the spine, the spinal column, and the solar and lunar energies, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, moving up the spine. This is what electromagnetic energy is. It's the Kundalini serpent fire energy. We are always receiving and transmitting this energy from all of the planets, not just Earth, not just the sun and the moon, but all of the planets in our solar system. And by the way, all of the plants, the the plant kingdom on Earth doesn't just use the sun to grow and the sun's light. They incorporate all of the planetary lights or light through this electromagnetic energy. There is no separation, in other words, from what is cosmic and what we embody. The the reality and what I am passionate about and what I want to bring to the public awareness is that we can consciously begin to use these energies for the purpose of healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
In a nutshell. Well, and I think that the nature of healing has just been totally lost
yeah,
as we move into contemporary society. I mean, now it's cut you up or give you a pill mentality, and it really doesn't have anything to do with our nature. It only has to do with what shows up on some test somewhere. And if
yes,
it's not, if it's not in your blood, you ain't
right.
broken.
Yeah, I know. Our modern medical system has become so fragmented, and it has fragmented the human body, just split it up. I mean, dismembered it and dissected it, pulling parts away from each other instead of looking at the whole. So, yes, fragmentation is the order of the day in modern medicine. However, many people in the system, I think, are recognizing that the system is bust and that we need to get back to connection. It is about connection to not just our own nature, but nature writ large. Nature, we have so much to learn from just observing the cycles of nature on this planet. And that's what I also discuss in the book. But yes, healing is about wholeness. WHOLENESS. It is coming back to our own wholeness and being able to expand, not stagnate. And realizing too that we have an infinite source. available to us to heal. And we barely scratched the surface with that. But I do
Well, that's
believe it's
because they
happening.
haven't come up with the right pharmaceutical concoction to fix us all. Come on.
Right.
You know, and I think for a lot of people, and, you know, and I kind of feel like I fall into this category even myself, you know, depending on where we're talking. You know, but when we step out into nature, when we look to experience the relationship between us and our celestial nature, or our relationship with the seasons or things like that, you know, it's just hard for us to see, or hard for us to recognize the experience. Might even be a better way of saying that. And so, can you possibly give some examples of, you know, what that connection is? You know, something that,
Yeah.
a little walk away for people.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite ways to bring awareness to people, their connection to nature and the seasons, as you mentioned, are the four elements. Okay, the four building blocks of the cosmos are fire, solids, liquids, and gas. And in the astrology chart, these same four elements are represented as fire, earth, air, and water. So I'm going to speak only to the sun sign and qualify what I'm about to say with the realization that we are much more than our sun sign, which is why we want to look at the entire cosmic imprint. However, there is much that a person can learn about themselves simply by understanding what element their sun sign is in. So, for instance, think about how fire operates in nature. Is it soft or is it loud?
I'd say loud.
Yeah, it's loud. It's crackly. It's moving in every direction. So fire signs multitask. They have a lot of things going on. They command attention, right? You can't, if there's a fire in the room, it's going to get your attention, right?
Exactly.
And they consume what's in their path. They're quick to ignite, so they so their emotions are right on the surface, in other words, and they'll generally express them. So let's go to air. Okay, fire and air, by the way, are yang or masculine elements.
And before you move on to air, so I mean, I'm a Leo,
Yes.
so I know I'm a fire sign, but what are the other fire signs?
Oh, thank you. Okay, you have Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, or in order of the natural chart, it would be Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Thank you.
Okay,
yes.
You're welcome. Okay, air.
Okay, so air, also a yang element, it operates above ground. It circulates and moves. It's constantly moving as well. Fire constantly moves and air constantly moves, but they move slightly differently. So air represents the intellect. Fire, by the way, represents spirit. Okay? Air represents the intellect. So air signs, and it's a misnomer that we use an airhead because they're highly intellectual, very curious, intellectually curious, but they often are very mental. So they stay in their head, and their challenge is to get grounded. And the challenge for both yang elements, fire and air, is to slow down long enough to, to get some balance, to gain a different perspective. All right. So now we'll move on to the yin elements and their challenge, something of which I know very well. So earth is a yin element, and from our perspective, Earth moves very slowly. Yes, obviously the planet Earth is moving through the solar system, but from our perspective, we wake up in the morning, we get our feet planted on the ground, we feel solid, stable. We can depend on the Earth. And so earth signs are, okay, well, I'll continue for now. Earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, are recognized as very dependable, very reliable, pragmatic. Another thing about earth signs is that they rely on their five senses. They're very tactile. So unless they can see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, it isn't something they can readily put their faith into. So, okay, that's earth. Now, let me go back to air for a second because I didn't mention those signs. Air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Okay, last but not least, water. Think about how water operates in nature. It takes on the shape of its environment. It's very adhesive. You can't separate one drop of water from the rest of the ocean, river, stream. They adhere to each other. So water is super sensitive to its environment. And it's hard for water signs to distinguish what they're feeling from what someone else is feeling. As soon as they walk into a room, they immediately feel the energy and the vibe of that space. They take on the shape of that environment. So for Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, they're the empaths. They are psychically sensitive, and the challenge for them is to create healthy boundaries. And a good container for them, by the way, is earth. Yeah. Did that help?
Well, I think that's Jennifer Gehl. Her book is The Science of Planetary Signatures in Medicine. Her webpage, soundworksbygail.com. And thank you for watching this portion of our interview with Jennifer. If you're enjoying today's programming, please click on the button below and subscribe to our channel. If you want to hear this interview in its entirety, become a Just Energy Radio insider at justenergyradio.com and access full shows commercial-free and gain access to our over 10 years of show archives. And don't forget to share this episode with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy. Be blessed.